Hi, I'm Derek, creator of TinyGrooveCS, and I'm coming at you here with the second mission in the campaign that follows where we pick up last time with Nuru, and follows her on an interesting journey related to her continued survival after her ship crash lands due to a volcanic ash storm. TinyGrooveCS stands for crowdsourcing, but also has some computer science elements in it, since those are the types of courses that I teach. I build computer models for a living, so I have a lot of fun programming these types of things in my spare time as well. And the last element to this is campaign support. A lot of you that watch these types of videos are particularly interested in adding unique elements to your own campaigns, and so we kind of dig, as I say, under the hood of what's going on behind the extremely powerful WarGroove editor. So with that, I'm going to go on ahead and dig into what is happening in TinyGrooveCS in the second mission. But since this is meant to be a community project, and I've incorporated ideas from many of you that have posted on Reddit and through the YouTube channel where I posted the previous video, here are some perspectives from individuals that have helped create the campaign so far with their ideas. So I'll turn it over to them, so I'm not the only talking head you hear from in this video.
Hi everybody, it's Bat, and today I want to talk about WarGroove. Some video games have large communities around them, and WarGroove is certainly one of the best examples we got around. With a ton of user-generated content, new custom campaigns, puzzles, scenarios, WarGroove can keep you busy for years and years. Derek, the prolific creator of TinyGroove and TinyGroove TV, contacted the community on Reddit and Discord to share his new project, TinyGrooveCS. What is TinyGrooveCS? TinyGrooveCS stands for crowdsourcing, and the idea is to have the community at large suggesting ideas about the story, about the gameplay, about the different mechanics, to build a unique experience of WarGroove collectively. I love this idea, and I was one of the persons really suggesting ideas. Due to that, Derek contacted me and said if I wanted to talk about Mission 2, which I would gladly do so. So I played the alpha version of TinyGroove, so things may change compared to what he used, but I think the backbone will probably stay the same. In the story of TinyGroove, Nuru crash-landed with her ship and her crew, a spaceship. The story is way less medieval and way more sci-fi than usual, giving advanced war Days of Ruin kind of feeling. It works very well, and with the crash landing of the ship, they are scraping for building back the parts that will help them living back this planet. On the way, they will have to survive and get by, find food, shelter, and trying to survive until they're ready to leave. The second mission trying to solve the problem of food. They see some buildings in the far with food in it, and those buildings are controlled by the undead who don't need the food, but they're not ready to share with Nuru. So only way to resolve this particular conflict is war. So you will have to invade the city of the undead in order to gain control over the food, reserve and supply. The survive. I really love the mission because you start with a redeployed team of units that you will have to keep alive. So the trade game is totally different because your enemy has Barracks on their own, so they don't play with the same kind of rules as you. On the way, as soon as you will start to control a certain number of buildings, you will get access to movable barracks. What are those barracks? Well, we saw them in the first mission of TinyGrooveCS, and they come back in TinyGroove's second mission. And those movable barracks are very powerful. They can move like a wagon, and you can position them in the place you want. They're very convenient to actually bring a building that can work as a reserve of life points, or block the path of the enemy, or just being able to spawn units just on the front lines. So there is a whole dynamic around those buildings that is very interesting, and I hope to see this mechanism being used in other missions of TinyGrooveCS. It has so much potential. On another note, you're also limited in the number of units you're allowed to deploy. 5 of each kind, of the basic kind, swords, spears, and bowmen. So the whole trade game is still stay very different even with the barracks, because you will only be able to produce a certain number of spheres, and I've found it very fantastic. Last but not least, it's not just a straight up conflict on this map. There are actually 4 players, or 3 of them controlled by the computer. It really has the dynamic of a free-for-all with all the mess that we have around it. A little spin on the free-for-all system is that if you give the final blow to any players, they will join your rank. So compared to a free-for-all where the dynamic balance out, that you really don't want to be the one giving the final blow because you're wasting your units, your activation on and you prefer your opponent to do it. Here you really want to actually beeline for the commander of your opponent and kill them as fast as possible to grow the ranks of your army. It's very interesting, works wonderfully well, and I wonder if the general free-for-all mechanism in WarGroove wouldn't benefit of something slightly similar, providing a more dynamic conflict. Overall, I had so much fun playing this mission. Between the main objective, the side missions, there's so many layers in those tailor-made, very intricate and detailed missions that Derek is producing. He's the master of the engine, really. He makes also videos to explain how he implemented every single concept that is actually at play for the missions. So it's also a great educational content if you do want to generate your own thing for WarGroove. And I was very glad to play it before the final release, because there's so many different ways of playing those missions that I can totally see myself making a 3rd or 4th playthrough of TinyGrooveCS. Replayability factor is really front and center in all of Derek's design, but even more in this TinyGrooveCS. And I find it fantastic to be able to play it now and being able to provide feedback and to know that you brought your little stone to this marvelous project and contribute in any way of making TinyGrooveCS one of the best campaigns of WarGroove. This was that. I hope you want to play the campaign now or give it a try. You can find it now, and have a good day. Happy playing!
We, along with Greenfinger in the top left-hand corner and the Outlaws in the bottom right-hand corner, and then Sigrid's main base over the lava in the back end of the map, kind of corner this city in the middle of the map. But then it turns out that Sigrid has basically deployed a bunch of crystals in the middle of the map, and that really has kind of functionally behaved 2 different ways. You can see this huge highlighted field in the middle of the map, and the reason why that's there is to let you know, hey, there's a load of crystals here in the middle of the map. And Tech Ops concurs that, yeah, this is probably not going to be any cakewalk, because she's deployed 8 crystals in the middle of the city, and they appear here in the heads-up display here as purple as our kind of side quest, along with defeating Sigrid as a blue arrow that will appear on her turn and track her movements moving forward. Try not to overwhelm the player with too many different options, but naturally, if we're trying to get to this crash site that's towards this central barracks in this map, we're going to have to take some time to find a way to get there. So we probably need to capture some production structures. And capturing our first hideout will allow us to recruit more thieves, and thieves are critical because with all these crystals here, it's going to be very difficult to conventionally destroy a lot of these structures and capture them for ourselves. But since thieves can one-shot any enemy structure, this now makes them extremely valuable because these crystals do an amazing job at protecting the structures and any of Sigrid's units inside of the city. And since it's a free-for-all, you'll see Greenfinger's units and others also attacking the city with you. So it's not going to be a Herculean task to take down the city, but it is made much easier by the thieves. And that was really what I was going for here, was I wanted to feature the new units. Much like Mission 1 in TinyGrooveCS, really heavily featured the utility of the long-range sharpshooters. This time we're focusing quite a bit more on the thieves. And they do an awesome job of really ignoring the armor that are added or afforded by these structures and allowing the player to kind of introduce some new game dynamics in terms of capturing large numbers of properties in this central city. And so now we've got our war wagons that are introduced. TinyGrooveCS kind of follows the background of Nuru from TinyGroove, which is able to build these like massive cities that kind of incorporate mobile construction vehicles, and they can pack up and be repacked in different places in the later missions of TinyGroove. So this is kind of canon for that particular series. But what's interesting about this is that she's got almost every production structure in her arsenal is capable of moving, and so this map introduces a new unit we'll see later on. But for now, capturing one hideout allows us to basically cause other production structures that were damaged during the crash nearby to come online. And so now we can capture 2 more hideouts to get another war wagon. We were just given 1 for capturing 1. We'll get a second when we capture 2, and as you might have guessed, there are 6 hideouts on the map highlighted in yellow. We're going to get a third one if we capture all of them. But of course, by that point, it's probably a little too late, as we should presumably have control of the map by the time we've captured all 6 hideouts. But there's some unique things that happen on this map that may not necessarily be true, depending on how you choose to play the game. And that's the goal, is really to kind of introduce this in a way that players have a lot of different play styles they like to do when they approach these types of games. And my goal is to accommodate as many of them as possible so that this is fun for players of all skill levels to enjoy. And if you're particularly not great at tactical games, but really just like being able to play through some fun and dynamic storylines, of course, you can always adjust the difficulty if this is too tough for you, or this playthrough video will basically show you what happens if you don't want to play it yourself, or if you do want to play it yourself and you keep getting stuck at a certain point. Here's some pretty useful hints that can kind of help you guide your progress through playing these types of campaigns. So I'm going to move forward because I know I'm going to put Nuru on the other side, and if this guy up here decides to haphazardly attack, my soldier at least will have the critical on the defense. And already you can see that one of the crystals has been destroyed up here. Greenfinger's units got to it pretty quick. This doesn't always happen, it just kind of depends on how Greenfinger moves their units. And since I went right, they also decided to go right with the enemy's AI over here. And you'll now realize that this introduces another main quest when we see these vines. Nuru's so hungry, she's saying, dang, it would be great to eat those vines. There's some sustenance in there. And so TAC Ops immediately suggests, hey, you better find the source of those vines. There's roughage to consume up there. So you'll see my goal with this is to kind of give it kind of a space age sort of vibe with a tactical operations computer guiding battle control. And so in this particular game, you'll see that there's lots of stuff that will constantly update you on what your different mission directives are, because unlike the regular campaign in WarGroove or even in TinyGroove, there's usually only 1 or 2 goals. In this game there are several, and since there are myriad options that can be completed in any order behind the game's coding, that means it has to consider every possible order that the players could potentially complete those tasks, which means you're going to be updating the mission objectives a lot of times for every possible combination, saying they complete objective 6, 7, 8, or 9 in a particular order. In this particular campaign, that's exactly what happens, whether you decide to defeat Sigrid first, destroy all the crystals in the city, decide to fell Greenfinger, and ultimately it will help him join your army, which is kind of what they're explaining here in the directions down below. But also it kind of breaks down a little bit further what influence Sigrid has over the control of the crystals. So what's kind of interesting about this is you're trying to make your way to the center of the city to scavenge the crash site, is that, before you try to roll in, TAC Ops gives this cryptic warning saying, hey, the bandwidth of the control signals that are sent from your downed or crashed spaceship that makes these mobile construction vehicles move around like our mobile barracks. War Wagon becomes a battle barracks at the end of every movement. You can pay 300 gold to move it again by recruiting a wagon and pack it up, but he's saying, hey, maybe you don't want the structure there to land in the middle of this space by the end of the day, because anything that's within a phase field of a crystal will stop it from unpacking. And that's actually very difficult to program, because there is nothing in the editor that says, hey, within the field of a crystal, which means we have to do some complicated in geographic information systems, what we would call map algebra. In this case, it's manipulating some of the Boolean logic related to any of the location settings. So we use a manipulation of differences between individual overlapping areas, since these crystals do overlap, and try and use that information to break down exactly what is happening. And also this turn, you'll see a bunch of highlighted spaces here, and that's because volcanic ash is falling. That kind of explain in the background. There's a somewhat random weather pattern that's provided, and so we want to avoid those spaces where there are debris falling on the map. So my goal is to get Nuru a little bit closer to the middle of the map while still protecting her with my units. And we've got another wagon here. And so just to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about, you can kind of see the phase fields of these crystals here being encouraged upon on all sides, but they're pretty aggressive and left themselves very open for me to attack them. So if I move this into the range of any of these crystals phase fields, for example, I can move this up here. It's probably not the best idea, but if I put it right here on the edge of the field, you'll see that the wagon doesn't unpack, and Nuru is kind of disappointed about that because, TAC Ops' cryptic warning didn't fully explain that, hey, the phase field does kind of block the unpacking signal from the spaceship, and that's why we can't actually use them. And this is kind of her military's first time learning that, hey, this cool technology that gave us a massive tactical superiority on the battlefield can be neutralized by the enemy, and that kind of stinks. So, that's always kind of fun when you're talking about an arms race associated with these games. Not fun in true military tactics because there's, your life on the line. But in this survival feel of this kind of game, it's really kind of interesting to be introduced to new concepts. And the WarGroove editor is totally capable of accommodating all of those things. And so that's why TinyGrooveCS stands for computer science, is that you're kind of using some logic that's involved here. I moved my unit up here realizing fully that it's probably going to die, but mostly because Greenfinger in the new version can now move his vines out of the way and accommodate a new path for us if I block on this side. But this now introduces us to Greenfinger. Once you see him, the trigger for that will activate and says, hey, who are you that are desecrating this forest that's already very feeble as it is? But Nuru immediately makes it evident that, hey, can you help us out? We're very hungry, and it seems like you can create those vines at will. And Greenfinger, views this more as cannibalism. He's like, he just created those things. They're part of him. Why would you want to eat part of him? And so there's ideological disagreements. As a result, he says, get out of the forest. We're just like those Felheim vagabonds, and he's likening us to Sigrid the vampire, who also seems to eat people or plants or whatever. So as a result, he chases us out of the forest, and we've now made an enemy of Greenfinger as well. But TAC Ops immediately assesses the behavior of him versus the units and says, hey, you probably just offended Greenfinger, not necessarily his whole army. They might maybe understand that we're starving and really want some food, and his vines look delicious. And they do. They really do. So, the goal here is mostly we could try and defeat Greenfinger, at which point it seems like his army would side with us, which is why it says subdue instead of defeat. If we defeat Greenfinger, immediately his entire army will convert to our control. And also, coincidentally, Greenfinger comes back and, kind of sees that, hey, we understand that you're in a tight spot. We probably can help you out. So, again, trying to avoid some volcanic ash. Hope there's no enemy that's hidden on this side. That is the danger with Fog of War, is that unlike games like Advance Wars, you can totally get stuck, because in this case with WarGroove, you cannot stand in or on structures, which means your turn is abruptly ended with death if you get stuck on a structure as you try to pass through it when you can't see the other side in Fog of War settings. So with that, I get close to ending my turn, but I really would rather capture some structures, but need to make it safer for Nuru that has kind of put herself in harm's way up ahead. And so now the next unit, I guess, that I could build something over here, and why not? Let's build ourselves a sneaker. And let's try trying to figure out if I wanted to send him up to the top left-hand side of the map. I've had some success playing through this way before, but you notice that I've gotten all my units out of these spaces except for this one. Mostly just to show that, yeah, it took 30% of its life and damage, as TAC Ops said, but also it's introduced this new burn mechanic. Mostly it's capable with some of the new settings that Chucklefish has added related to how much damage units take over time by manipulating it to say, hey, take 100% damage from all sources, to now it says take 130% damage from all sources. For any units that are stuck in these burn fields, like Greenfinger's Vine that's stuck right here, we're going to pay attention to this one above the crystal and see if we can hit that one next turn. It's going to be kind of tough to do because there's a lot of stuff here. But if there was somehow a way for me to demonstrate how I could get to that particular unit, that would be nice, since I can't attack with this guy to show you how much damage he would take as a counterattack. I'm going to move my thieves closer to my hideout. And honestly, it makes more sense to stay in the protected areas since there's more volcanic fallout coming the next day, we can see on our forecast. So I'm going to move a little bit closer up here since Greenfinger seems to be pushing right instead of south. I'm going to exploit that and keep moving forward. And I'm going to move up here and try and take out some of Greenfinger's structures. I mostly just want to eliminate his production structures. I'm not so concerned about anything else there. And yeah, I'm going to recruit another thief because that is kind of the name of the game here, but we still need to make sure that our army's not so unbalanced that we can't protect ourselves. So now that I've kind of shown that the crystal's phase field, so I park right outside of it, no problem, deploys into a battle barracks, and we can start recruiting units next turn. I can always recruit another wagon to move it at any time, but I'm all good for now. We're going to move up this way. And Nuru's groove is ready, so I would teleport in a new unit, but I forget it's costs double. Didn't used to at the beginning of the game, but for some reason I'm still trying to get used to a thing that's been in the game for more than 6 months. That it costs lots of money to recruit things for Nuru. So I'm going to attack this structure over here and at least force a Sigrid to relinquish control from one more structure because she had a lot of buildings, which means she's got a lot of flying units up in this top right hand corner that are ultimately going to be harassing the Outlaws, the first folks that are there in range, which is why you see their turns usually end up being so short. So now it's Greenfinger's turn, and he is doing an amazing job of just wrecking Sigrid on the north end of this map, and that's mostly because I spent a lot of time balancing this battle so that it's not just you trying to attack Sigrid, which I control with like nearly 20 structures at the beginning of the map. Now it's made it at least a little bit easier for us to kind of overwhelm her. I mean, she still has control of the barracks in the middle of the map, but the other things that I should mention is that this volcanic ash I didn't talk about too much the first time it came through, but it's based on a randomization function, and the things that are happening behind the scenes here is the beginning of the battle. It kind of picks a schema, one of 3 different options, and basically that affects the relative cycle of the days that you're seeing that the ash is falling from the sky. And there are 2 different things that can happen. When the weather in the top right hand or top left hand corner of the map tells you that the weather is going to be volcanic ash falling from the sky that day, this is your equivalent of severe weather. You can see now a lot of the storm seems to be clustered to the top left, and that's because I have used basically just one of 2 different combinations of patterns for ash falling, and then used the move XY coordinates options. There's a new function that's been added called move, and instead of moving it to a unit or a location, which were previously the only 2 options, you can now move it just by saying up, down. Of course, the directions affected by negative or positive will give you the directions you want, and you can see in this particular instance that we have clustered towards the top left-hand side of the map this time for the volcanic ash, which means it's going to be really tough to dodge these, but also there's some things that can't get out of the way, like structures. For example, our structure here, unfortunately, we can't get it out of the way, but it has also been removed from our control. It is on a highlighted space. So actually, I'm going to move this unit first, just to make sure I don't put it in the path of the ash. And Sigrid's units have actually hit us. We don't want to attack this guy because Volcanic Ash will hit us on all sides there. So unfortunately we can't really, I mean, conveniently we're going to reclaim the building just so Sigrid doesn't send one of her units to capture and have 2 barracks on the map. But we just kind of have to be careful about where we're putting our units. We have 700 gold to work with, so my plan is to teleport in something that will give us at least some vision. I'm going to use a dog, mostly because that will give us some additional... it won't let me teleport units into the Fog of War. A fun thing I forgot, so I'm going to need to put myself somewhere else. So instead, I guess I will teleport my dog in somewhere that's not going to be immediately hit with Volcanic Ash at the end of my turn. And because I've made the Volcanic Ash relatively strong, if debris are falling, it deals 30% of the unit's life and 30% extra damage from any future damage sources. That's pretty overpowered, and so as a result, we've kind of got to be careful about exactly what happens there. Now, Greenfinger sequestered himself to the middle here, and it's actually possible that the AI is programmed to not defeat the commanders just so you don't see them randomly perish in the middle of the map. But my goal really is just to keep the enemy from... Volcanic Ash was going to fall on this space anyway, so just to illustrate this, I've got a full strength unit. It captures it up to 50% life. It's about to lose 30 of it at the end of this turn, and take additional damage, not over time, but as the units continue to attack it. So this is more almost like a crippling function rather than a burn function. And I'm going to send some more of my thieves. I would send them more towards the Sigrid, but she's putting a lot of pressure on me down here. So my goal is to move in a direction that will allow me to persevere in the long run, so I need to capture some more structures. And while I can put the hurt on Greenfinger, my goal would really be to directly attack him rather than anyone else, and I've saved myself enough gold to recruit another thief. So that's going to be the last thief I recruit for a while, because we need to be able to protect them. And now I've got a lot of thieves, and as you can see, not nearly enough folks, I guess, protecting them. And so, of course, Nuru is going to make that guy pay, mostly because he's taking 130% damage now, ending his turn on this Volcanic Ash space. You can already see his life is at 70%, but he now takes additional damage, which means Nuru should be able to one-shot this guy on his next turn, which is nice, because basically they spent 600 gold on a knight, spent a couple of turns moving him over here to reclaim the 300 gold that my thief was capturing, so Sigrid got that money back, but at a deficit of 300 gold to her own unit. So now my goal is to build lots of mages, mostly because the enemy is trying to return with some gold up here, but they can't really do that if I take away all of their hideouts. So this guy is basically useless now until Greenfinger has a unit here that comes and captures them. Also, one thing that's worth noting is that dogs are really strong in terms of damaging the enemy. And now Sigrid is actually pretty vulnerable, so I'm going to attack her on 2 sides with my dog and my mage, and knowing full well that it's possible that Sigrid could do a lot of damage to me for this. My thought is mostly just to neutralize threats that are encroaching in the bottom left corner and put some damage on the enemy units, and hope that one of Greenfinger's units... I guess the enemy won't actually attack Sigrid, so I don't know why I was hoping that that would be the thing that would happen here. It can't. But this at least gives me some options to do a little bit more damage to Sigrid, knowing full well that she can fully heal her units on the next turn if she uses her groove, which logically she should, but the AI never quite does what you think sometimes. So now I can deposit my gold from the structure I just took from the enemy, and that's kind of the goal here, is just to make sure that the enemy is feeling the hurt at least a little bit. For some reason, the enemy didn't recapture this structure, so I'm going to make them pay for that folly by recruiting a shaman somewhere up here. probably get hit by this guy or this dog, but you'll also see that this mechanic of limited units remaining, I have 4 of each type of unit available on this particular map. And the reason for that is mostly I'm going to stop recruiting more thieves and just end my turn. But in this mechanic, because we've only got a limited number of units, Nuru's ship has crash landed, and as a result, this kind of causes some problems for her because, you know, we don't want her to be able to just recruit a massive army with what should be limited resources. So this forces you to think more carefully about how you use your units. On each map, they carry over from map to map, so on the first mission you have 5 of each type of unit of soldiers, you've got spearmen, you've got archers, you've got your mages, and then finally you've got dogs as your 5 main units. And the goal here is mostly to break down exactly what is going to be the most tactically appropriate decision whenever you're approaching this map moving forward. At the end of each map, if you still have 5 of each of those units alive, for example, if you recruit 5 soldiers, it gives you the 5 soldiers back. And of course, you can game this a little bit since Nuru's Groove allows you to procure units without having to follow these requirements of what was recruited at your mobile barracks. So as a result, if we started the map with units, which we did this time, those don't count against our total. And again, you can see we've got a slightly different pattern than we had before. So our goal is, again, the enemy has recaptured this structure up here, so I'm just going to take it away again. I would have liked to have been able to escape and get back with all of this gold, but I can't seem to do that, so I'm just going to get out of the danger zone and, yeah, use my time there to capture this structure instead. Sigrid's now got full life again, which I kind of realized that could happen, but at the very least wanted to do something to imperil her units that would attempt to do us harm in the process. So I've got a gunner here because I've seen the enemy's got a ton of infantry coming towards us, and these guys are annoying, but their natural counter now are these long-range sharpshooters, and we finally got enough properties captured to make that a regular reality the enemy is going to have to deal with. So let's make that happen on a regular basis now. Moving forward, all I've really got to do is just continue to harass the enemy. My goal with Nuru is to charge her groove pretty quick. She's now at 90%, mostly because she can replenish units at the end of the map based on how many are within our stock. So I could attack this spearman, but I'm going to have volcanic ash fall on me, and that's not fun. So instead, I probably need to do something different with my units. I'm going to send this guy way out of harm's way. I didn't know if there was anything over here, but kind of surmised there's not. We looted rations from a Felheim structure, and that's mostly text that I added just to remind myself later, hey, there's an achievement. It's got to be connected to looting structures with your thieves. You know, loot 10 or 15 structures or whatever over the course of this map, and good stuff will happen for you later on without divulging too much what the plans are for the future with this. Now we've got a mage here, and it's just enough if I had the interest in, and I totally have the interest in recruiting a second gunner. I don't know why I was pretending like there would be any reason that I would not. I can totally harass Sigrid from up here. I thought about healing my units, but honestly we're kind of okay here. I just need to move back a little bit or use it to capture a structure. If I put it here, Sigrid's going to attack and kill me, so I'm just going to move back behind Nuru. Mostly because, again, I've got limited stock. I don't want to just damage my units for no reason, but I want to make sure their ranged combat units are feeling the hurt a little bit. And that was my hope, was to bait the enemy. I was hoping to get one up here too, that Volcanic Ash would land on top of them when they try to attack Nuru, and of course I'll heal her next turn with my mage. And at this point, as I said earlier, we need to stop losing control of this structure, which Volcanic Ash has not really helped with. You can park it somewhere else. I should have done that, but I didn't control the structure last turn. And so it's also useful at times to lose control of your structures because they permanently take 30% extra damage. And so as the volcanic ash falls, of course, you don't really have any option with this for structures that can't move, which in WarGroove is usually all of them. But in this case, you can move your stuff out of the way with mobile structures like the Barracks. And so again, more volcanic ash is falling. And we've got to deal with this, and so TAC Ops again has calculated the trajectories, and we need to avoid these spaces, and you can see it's moved even further to the top left. So based on the way that this has worked, we don't really have a lot of great options here for units that we can attack, mostly because we can't see very well this direction. So at the very least, I'm going to move down here and deposit both of my Thieves' Gold into this structure, so that way we've got ample funds to work with. I'm going to move up here and capture Greenfinger's production structure. That way we've captured another hideout, and my purpose behind that is getting our second wagon that's going to appear down here. So this should update what our options are available based on whether or not we've got 3 wagons available, and she's saying, hey, I wish hideouts were mobile too. That'd be convenient to move our robbery repository right next to the city instead of having to trek all the way back into the forest. And TAC Ops is like, yeah, I'll look into it. So capture a few more mission directive updates, and now it says, hey, capture all the remaining hideouts on the map. So we're going to move this bad boy forward, and now this is where Sigrid's really going to start to feel the hurt, because we've got 2 barracks as compared to the 1 she normally controls in the city. And in this particular version of the game, it's actually hysterical. Greenfinger is like putting a serious hurt in the middle of the city, which the last several times I've played this, he usually just stays in the top left-hand corner and puts the hurt on me at the beginning of the game. So depending on which direction you press, the enemy will kind of do the opposite, realizing that the AI functions as a heat map that says, hey, where is there risk associated with where our units can end their turn and not die? Of course, there are confounding factors that I've added just because it's not normally part of WarGroove's engine to have stuff like volcanic ash in these random highlighted areas kind of affect what the enemy's AI will do. As many of you that have been playing through with Errol and Orla's Groove have realized the enemy doesn't seem to make a profound effort at trying to avoid burning to death in the Scorching Fire Groove. So, interestingly enough, even game-sanctioned highlighted cells, they seem to not avoid and kind of superfluously imperil themselves. So we're going to heal ourselves here. We don't want to die, but Nuru's Groove is ready, and so, yeah, we're going to be mean and move up here knowing the AI really just loves to attack the commander, and yeah, the cheapest thing to do would be to recruit a slasher. Even though I could recruit a mage up here, there's lots of units that can hurt on a mage, whereas I can at least take advantage of the critical and recruit something else down here. So mages, I guess, for the Florin are called Shaman, and so I'm going to move down here. And we've got 2 mages remaining, the unit type, and just to annoy the enemy further, I'm going to capture a building. Because the AI tends to prefer attacking buildings to other structures. And on top of that, I've got a dog that probably should move out of harm's way, but it's just so appetizing to destroy one of these, so I'm going to do that. And we destroyed a crystal. So yay, we can now see the enemy's only got 6 of those remaining, and now I'm just going to try and capture a few more structures, although I'm going to pass on that this time, mostly because it's always better to deal damage to enemies that are going to deal damage to you in turn on their turn, which is like immediately after mine. So let's see what happens here. Alright, another crystal removed. Mostly the way these crystals are removed is they lose 20% of their life. They're immediately healed 20% after that. I can put the 20% before, but then they don't always heal all the way to 100%. Sigrid's now way up here in the top of the map, so she is totally dead the next 2 turns. because the rest of our army is way down here, and that's because the enemy AI is set to aggressive, mostly so they don't turtle themselves away, and this map takes 45 turns for every play that plays it through. If the AI was very protective, that's what would happen. I have the results. I've done this several times testing this map. So yeah, I apologize to those of you that constantly complain on TinyGroove and other maps that you keep dying after 10 or 15 turns. Trust me, in playtesting, a lot of those maps are like 60 turns, and I've tried to change it to where the AI is almost stupidly aggressive so that they like fall on their own swords in front of you. It does not make the campaign any less difficult, mostly because, as a lot of people have noted, it is a lot of trial and error, as a war usually is, but for the most part, you try to make informed battle decisions based on whatever intelligence you have at the time, and Fog of War tends to muddle that a little bit, which is the goal. So there are some fun choices here, but naturally destroying crystals, I guess, or attacking Greenfinger really makes the most sense. So I wouldn't have bothered to attack Greenfinger if he had full health, mostly because they recuperate 5% per turn. But let's go on ahead and make our way through the rest of this map. So I've got more thieves. The enemy's got more structures. I can ransack them. Just trying to make sure I'm choosing maximum ransacking to happen here, since normally my strategy that I would employ would involve trying to do this. I'm going to move my units up here where they can do the most possible damage to Sigrid and also heal my units. In the process, and finally, it would be really nice to not have Felheim have this structure down here, but it seems that it was probably more worthwhile attacking the enemy's structures instead. So my goal is just to start capturing as many of those as possible. With all the thieves on the map, you'll see a lot of the structures end up not being claimed, but we've now got a reprieve from the volcanic ash for a couple days, so my thought is mostly to position this unit so that it can attack Sigrid or any of these things that are in these directions on the next turn. We now don't need a lot of these thieves down here, so my goal is just to take away structures from the enemy. I also want to be careful about what the range is of this dog, which is already overlapping a couple of my units, so I guess it's fine to put more of them over there as well and finish that. Alright, so we're kind of running out of options to choose here, but my goal is to see if I can bait Sigrid. Dang it, I got baited myself. I forgot the enemy had a thief over here. I was trying to get something over here where Sigrid might try to run through the structure to capture this one over here, and by getting stuck under a structure she would die. Those kind of cheese tactics weren't great with Fog of War, but now we're just going to kind of wait and see. Yep, Sigrid took the bait and moved a little bit closer to my units. Unfortunately, not a lot of them are strong enough to do a lot of damage to her, but she's at least in range of 2 of my sharpshooter units now, but she is standing in the forest, which stinks, so I'm not going to be able to attack her that way, which means I can't completely defeat her next turn. You're now seeing the enemy's flying units are starting to make their way down here, and that is problematic, so we kind of need to do stuff about that. We have mages, so that is what the stuff is that we're doing about that, but you'll see these crystals, they're very heavily defended, and as TACOps pointed out earlier, it's because Sigrid is alive. We need to make that not true anymore, so we're going to move up this way, but again, because these are still in Fog of War, I can't see what's up there. So we need to do a couple of things with our turn here. One, we need to recapture the structure down here. And as I pointed out in the previous video, there are much more efficient ways to play through this map, but this allows me to review and divulge all the triggers that some players that play through efficiently may never actually experience. just to let you know that it's like all players that play this map in different ways may have slightly different experiences based on what happens and what TAC Ops says. So we've run out of mages now, so the next time we try to recruit one on our next turn, the game's going to be like, sorry, you can't. Of course, you can always recruit more of them with Nuru's teleport beam, but we don't have enough money to do that at the moment, so I'll recruit something else. We also made sure to save enough gold to heal units with this, so I am definitely going to do that, and in the process capture some more structures. All the while attempting to force the enemy to come out of hiding. So, actually, can I get Nuru up here? No, I can't. I can put her next to this guy, which I guess is as good as anything else. That still baits Sigrid into a spot I don't really want her to be. So my alternative option is to back up away and have her come to us, since there's really nothing else up there except to capture structures, which she will do if I give her the option. Backing away is probably not the best strategy, so I'm going to come up here and teleport in something that can actually deal some damage. Let's go with the stabber this time. It's usually never a bad decision, and recruiting a pikeman, so our stabber spearman character can take care of the enemy and quick response. I'm going to move this direction, that way I can hit things from these angles, and move this guy over a little bit so we're a little closer to the action as well, and reload. The enemy is continuing to harass my units down here, so in the next couple turns I need to make a more conscientious effort to protect my thieves that are up here and down there. And to do that, it's pretty simple. I just have to make sure that my units are safely within range of some way to heal themselves as we make our way deep into the city to start to pillage and plunder. So on my next turn, my goal is to get both of these guys out here. They're protected by my structures. We've got a nice wall, palisade that's kind of blocking for me. So my real interest here is to kind of put this up here. Maybe Sigrid will see it and see, hey, that's something that seems appetizing to attack. And get my dog down here, hoping that maybe I can bait Greenfinger to come this way. Inevitably, he's going to drop some more vines, so... If not this turn, the next one. And Sigrid's groove is fully charged again, which means we basically need to one-shot kill her. She's not going to waste her groove when her life is full, so... Sure enough, he uses his groove and protects himself again, moving that direction, which is why, unlike previous playthroughs that I've done with this, where like on turn 6 I have control of Greenfinger's entire army, he's basically running away from us, which is interesting for an aggressive commander. But Volcanic Ash is falling again, and we got crippled defense on account of burns. Let's see where they fall. Again, we're kind of up towards the top left. Again, this is kind of randomized. You'll see this happen a variety of different ways, depending on how you play this mission. But I keep forgetting I do not own that structure anymore, so I have to run away. And I can't end my turn here because I will die. Sigrid maybe will move here and get herself injured, but I've healed myself by putting myself there. And yeah, I can definitely bait Sigrid into coming this direction if I put Nuru right here. So she's probably going to attack from up here, or at least prefer to do so, if I didn't also have another unit right here. And so we need to kind of put the coup de grace on her. So in order to do that, we're going to move some units into here and make this area a little bit inhospitable for Sigrid to move this way. I was hoping to get my stabber all the way over here. That would have been too easy. So, can either bait her here or up here. She could move here as well, but I don't want her to feel so crowded that she doesn't attack. Alternatively, I could take out the enemy. Yeah, I'm going to do that. just because I get that gold. And yeah, I could go there, but then the volcanic ash is going to fall on me. And honestly, I have no flying units, so which is not really a concern except for its hex. So instead, let's increase our range by ransacking some stuff with the thieves that we have in range down here. And that will increase our movement range for our other units that are down here as well. Because now we can move through these structures rather than around them. Now, sharpshooters can't attack flying enemies, but we can attack crystals, and we can move our bases a little bit closer to the center, and eventually Nuru is going to make her way to our primary objective in the next couple turns, and that's important. Now that we're kind of seizing close to 1/3 of the map at this point, sure, we'll play this aggressively. It's going to take 30% additional damage in future turns, which is the thing you generally want to try and avoid, but at this point I'm going to capture a structure full well knowing that I'm probably going to lose in the next few turns unless the Sigrid's units just have stayed way back here. But Greenfinger has basically built a wall of vines, so that's fun. Yeah. So just to illustrate, try to recruit a mage, and the game is like, JK LOL, no mages left in stock, but here's your 400 gold back, pretty please buy something else. So now I'm gonna have to recruit something different. I am going to go with a dog, actually, and the reason for that, I'm recruiting it here because there's ash in the way up here. I've got 3 dogs, I call them muck dogs in TinyGroove, but quag butts are fun too. Just kind of looking for a way to quickly reclaim a lot of these structures cheaply, and there's nothing better than a soldier to do that with. So with the limited stock of units that are available, the breakdown for that is essentially you've got 5 of every type of unit in the first map, there's 4 of them in the second map, there's 3 of every type of unit in the third map, 2 in the fourth map, and then 1 in the fifth map. And this works if you play through the game in a maybe out of chronological order approach, like I just demonstrated with the first tiny map at the beginning of this. Basically gave us the choice of approach this in whatever order you want, and I chose the order of let's play the second mission first. I had 4 of every unit, so the first unit we tried to recruit said, hey, you got 3 left, this is your first one, the 4th unit. But if you play them in chronological order, you can carry over more units than that. Like, for example, if I played the first mission first, which is covered in the first video of TinyGrooveCS, you could potentially carry over all 5 of those units. So there's some minor attrition for playing things out of order, which really incentivizes you by the time you get to maps 4 and 5, which will be released in the coming weeks/months. The goal with that is really just to encourage the player to play through some of the previous maps, which allows them to carry over more of their units and be more protective with this survival themed campaign. I didn't want you to feel like you could build an unlimited size army, and so you'll see that play out even more in the third map that I've already started to spend quite a bit of time designing, and it implements some things related to maximum army size on that map as well, in addition to the fact that of course you've got limited units you can recruit. It now imposes a maximum army size in the next map, which is kind of reminiscent of concepts related to lots of real-time strategy games. And a lot of those added some tactical components that made you think a little bit more carefully, so you don't just mob the enemy with, like, Star Wars or Star Trek. With a StarCraft reference, not to zerg the enemy with too many units by mounting hundreds of zerglings right there at the beginning of the map. You've got to be careful about which types of units you build and how many of them. This mostly accounted for computational efficiency in the game. It's hard to render 200 units moving really fast across the map, so it's usually slows the game down if you got multiple players in a multiplayer game trying to use that exact same tactic. So in the next map that will play more like an MOBA style map, multiplayer, online battle arena kind of style game, it's gonna involve lots of heroes, which is why we need to make sure to recruit Greenfinger along with the Outlaws before this map is over. So we're going to destroy another crystal. Again, they're a little bit harder to attack. Each one takes about 4 or 5 attacks to defeat, and they are not healing themselves, but they're not losing 20% life per turn like they normally do in WarGroove, so it will take a little bit more effort to defeat them, but they're not indestructible, as they kind of pointed out earlier. Also just going to clear this guy out so he doesn't endlessly hex our units. And if Sigrid is dumb enough to come out into the open, I was like, I keep having to move these guys forward and backwards. So let's move back. I don't know how many units we really needed to heal over here, so I'm just going to keep capturing structures, and that will eventually give us a superiority on the map as we move forward. So, and when I say move forward, I mean it literally. Let's move forward into as far forward as we can in this map. There's a vine in the way here, so we'll park it right next to the crash site. This will now give us a wall to protect Nuru when she does some scavenging. She's way up in the corner of the map to contend with Sigrid. But as soon as we have felled her, we are coming back this way. And we're going to use this dog over here so she can't hide in the woods. Now that we've kind of moved things around a little bit, we're going to spend our gold this turn just moving our front just a little bit closer to the enemy. And as you know, there's really, you see now the enemy's got a sharpshooter over here. Let's just press in on the south side of the map. So we've got a small wall of barracks on this next turn. If the enemy doesn't capture, we're going to take this third one here in the middle of the map and move across accordingly. With that, I'm going to end my turn. I don't need another thief at this point because the enemy has not really been particularly prudent at defeating my thieves, which is interesting. The enemy's MO is normally to deal with that pretty early on, but they seem to have little problem with me attacking their structures. Greenfinger's taking care of this guy. So, again, it's important to note, Greenfinger is not on my team. So I've forced him towards the enemy's base. Now Wolfar's group is fully charged, and he has knocked a harpy across the map. Thanks, Wolfar. So yeah, Errol and Orla are over here as well. We didn't even know they were there. The game hasn't introduced them yet and won't for a little while. But normally by this point I have made my way this direction and can at least see them. But instead, the enemy's commanders have been particularly resilient to dying, which is really what you want in someone that's going to lead an army. So everything is working as intended there. Well, this is really not what I wanted to do with this, but since she can't use our groove, or her groove, on us, I'm just going to capture these structures, and I assume that she has got her fully charged groove because she defeated the thief the enemy had over there. Sigrid is now officially neutralized from the battle. I'm going to collect all these structures. Mostly I just wanted somewhere to drop off my gold, and let's get back to it over here. So I'm going to move a little bit closer this way so I can hit Greenfinger with my units, and I'm going to move this way just so I can reinforce, get us back to full health. I want to run this guy all the way back around this way and send the thieves back out. Looting is fun. So, and of course I meant the musical instrument. It's got a delightful sound and tone that just really keeps you coming back for more. Yeah, I didn't mean to wait on that turn. I was focused more on my terrible joke instead of actually defeating the enemy. Sometimes the enemy's best deterrent is you and your own attempts at comedy. So, I'm getting a little bit closer to defeating the enemy. And again, I have now exhausted all of my options for mages. I have a few more dogs left. I might be out of slashers too. Nope. Oh, got two. Okay, nice. I got one more remaining. So, Now I'm gonna end my turn. This is gonna make it super easy to capture the rest of this city by just throwing my infantry units out. Erect a crystal, drop a crystal down below 20% life, and then when it takes damage on the next turn, we'll be able to contend with it then. Alright, so now Greenfinger's repositioning his vines. Most of them are gonna die because they do lose 20% of their life each turn. I'm going to capture the structure so I can see Sigrid. I'm going to move Nuru back here. Kind of need Nuru down here to keep the map moving forward, but at this point, all I need is that structure and Nuru to keep Sigrid contained, so she's going to fall on her next turn, and since she can't use her groove on a commander to one-shot kill them, that's really all I need. I'm going to move this mage out of the way next turn too. Unless Sigrid defeats the structure, then I got to keep it there for one more. So, I'm just going to use my sharpshooters to start thinning out. Ooh, enemy's got a thief up here. I should have used the dog to kill the thief. They're really good at those hideout units, doing a lot of damage to them. I'm going to attack this one mostly because all these other vines are going to die on their own next turn. Now this one will too, with less than 20% life. And I use this guy to capture this barracks. And use this unit to do that. And honestly, we are really uncontested for a lot of this. So I'm just going to press as far as possible into the city and start doing some damage. The structures are way easier to capture if the crystals are down, and the crystals don't counterattack, so I'm going to waste my time attacking this crystal, get it down below 10%, 4% life remaining, and the next turn all these vines will die on their own, since they're from his groove several turns ago. And this should be in great shape to loot something next turn. We'll recruit our last slasher, and I don't really need dogs because they can't capture things, so slashers are gone now, so are our shaman. We haven't recruited any shooters, and mostly the reason for that is that we kind of want them once we get close to this lava creek on this side of the map. So spearmen, they don't move very far, but they will do the job in a pinch. Spearmen are awesome to unload straight out of your wagon as you convert it to a barracks and drop them right on the front line. In a wall, usually, because that's how their crit works. But I'm going to wait and see how this goes. Sigurd's got some more flyers. Hear him over here. And please, drop more vines. I don't know what he's trying to protect himself that's up here. But volcanic ash falling from the sky today. More of it. Alright, we get the deal at this point. We've moved ourselves way up here. It's turn 15. We've got more volcanic ash coming tomorrow, which means life's about to become tough. So let's at least eliminate Sigrid as one of our threats. The last crystal will go down super easy now. Yay! Crystals are back. Previously, I think they were only taking 30% of the normal damage that they do. They're now back up to, in fact, they're up to 120% now, or 125. So it'll make our lives a lot easier. Thanks, TACOps. It's updated our heads-up display with the fact that we have contended with Sigrid and she is gone. So we're going to capture that structure now and move ourselves across the map here. And do that again over here. And just to illustrate, we're now doing 75 to 83% damage to this crystal. And I don't really care about the dogs quite as much in this case. I just want to drop it below 20% so it will die on its own next turn. I'm going to do this to both of these crystals and use units that are... that one will die if I drop it there. I do care about my army, especially since I could potentially carry over a certain number of them to the next turn. So you see this one could be one-shot killed by a full-life swordsman now, which was kind of the case before. Although with 125% damage, this makes them still something that's an issue to contend with. So just to update, I mean, I don't really need to move my barracks, but if I do try to move it into the range of this crystal, again, it does know where I can and cannot deploy them. There are invisible fields here, and so it blocks me from deploying here. Whereas if I deployed another wagon over here and said, hey, you know, put us right outside this crystal's field, which overlapped with the previous crystal over here, it knows what is within its range. And so as a result, it kind of is blocked directly by this space here. Alright, so we need to move forward and capture the structure here. And what I would love to do is attack, and attack again. So we're getting a little bit closer to having the entire city under our control. But there's not a lot of spots available for us to select to attack the enemy with. So I'm going to build another stabber and put it here. And since this crystal is going to die on its own next turn, I put this one in Volcanic Ash's way, but this guy's basically a non-issue. This is the first of the Outlaw units that we're actually seeing in our vision range. Guess I can't attack that structure. Of course I killed this guy anyway. Should have thought that through a little bit better. And I have more thieves, but at this point there's only a few structures left for them to claim. So I'm mostly just going to fund our military with these thieves, and can even just kind of stop using them if I wanted to at this point, because I'm going to be collecting a massive amount of money per turn. So, I'm going to end my turn. Sigrid is gone, but her army remains. She's constructing more units up here. And now that that crystal is gone, I can confirm that there's no more in the area. We can unpack wagons wherever you wish. Yay, that's exciting. And that's particularly important because now that they're gone, you'll see that this is updated and immediately started unpacking our wagons that were previously in range of this crystal that just died. And it's not even our turn. So that's kind of cool. So this one's deployed there. And interestingly enough, the way that I've coded this is that if there's a wagon in range of a crystal field that could not unpack before, that's why the second wagon didn't unpack. I'd forgotten about that rule till just looking at the what's happening in the background. Now that there is not another wagon that's in a field, this one should be able to unpack just fine. I was just making sure that there are no wagons that are in a field, which is meant to include this particular wagon, but now our field has shifted to the right, so we've got to be careful about that, because now we are dealing with another day of volcanic ash, only this time we're now dealing with acid rain, which affects us a little bit less. So I'm just going to drop this thing on the Outlaw's doorstep, and that'll be fun for them to deal with. It also will help block this bridge once it inevitably comes down. That hasn't happened yet, mostly because our primary directive is to get Nuru over here, and of course her groove is not subject to our unit limits, which is a good way to somewhat game the system if you are massively losing units, because, you know, admittedly this campaign is designed to be somewhat challenging, but not impossible. So, I don't know why I healed there. That was not what I meant to do. Trouble when I'm looking at the camera instead of at the screen. So it is time to deal with Greenfinger. I really want to capture, but I guess we'll attack instead. This guy can hit us, so I'm going to attack him. So I'm not kind of intentionally imperiling myself a little bit just because I need Greenfinger to be gone, because that's like the other part of this mission moving forward, is that I can't really do a lot of other things until I've contended with Greenfinger as a nuisance on the map. So I'm going to reinforce this guy and just continue to attack the enemy structures. Now that there are no crystals in the way, there's really no reason why I wouldn't be doing that. I'm going to attack it from this side. The structure is already going to take damage from the ash storm, this time acid rain, which does less damage than the debris itself. So there are two different types of weather that are happening here in this cycle in the background, and we'll kind of review how that works. Meanwhile, I get money for felling this guy, so I'm going to do that. I don't really need the money, but you know, I'm greedy because that's kind of how Sigrid was, and that was ultimately her downfall on the map. Hopefully that doesn't happen to me too, and that I don't suffer too much for being super greedy and wanting all for gold. But at this point, I really just want the gold so that they don't have it. I could have moved thieves down the bottom left-hand corner, but my goal at this point is I've got thousands of gold and don't need all of it, so let's keep this going. Alright, so they're going to heal themselves down there in the corner of the map, and that'll be fun for me, because they've amassed quite a few. You can't see them, but there are sharpshooters down there, and there's lots of them. So again, more volcanic ash falling. It says this time it's debris again, so we're going to contend with that as an issue moving forward. Deposit and move our thieves over. And my goal at this point is just to get everything out of the way and get Nuru to that crash site as quickly as possible. And of course she's in the site that falling ash will be on, so you also want to get your units out of those spaces. Unfortunately, we're kind of limited with Greenfinger as to where we can even stand, because there's ash that's going to fall behind him. So let's just first attack him with any ranged combat units that we can hit him with. Unfortunately, it's just that one. That stinks. Force the enemy to lose control of some of their structures. Capture some more. We are going to reclaim this structure over here, and I can't kill him with that unit, but I can capture the structure above him and basically trap him where he can't escape. Hopefully this takes care of him. If not, I knew I didn't have anything in range that could potentially bring about his demise. That was just disappointing to know. So I'm going to cluster these units here, bring this mage down here, heal them all, get these guys out of the ash, bring this dog up here. It's not enough to destroy this either, but it will break on its own between the ash and losing 20% per turn. So what I want to do now is just kind of put these units up here and capture the structures around Greenfinger so that he cannot get away. Because unfortunately we want to cluster our units as tightly as possible around him, because he's about to use those vines again. And while annoying, yeah, so I'm going to purposefully put myself in range just so he doesn't put vines right here next to him. And that will give us a little bit more control over what happens here. I'm just going to land this guy in the ash, it will be fine. Alright, and that's good enough. We could recruit more sharpshooters, and in fact we should. Forget it, we'll do that later. As you can see, explaining the mission and on top of the fact of having to beat it, yeah, it was difficult, and I should have recruited something here. I was not paying attention to that. Honestly, the enemy's not going to get too crazy over there anyway, because the bridges are still up, which means the Outlaws have to go around to get this way, and they don't have any flying units. However, they have massed quite a few ranged combat units that could hit anything down here, which is why you notice that structures are continuing to take damage, not just from ash, but from other things. So, my first order of business is to defeat Greenfinger. Mostly because he will no longer be in our way, and he also conveniently decides with his not so dying breath that he's going to join us, and he's like, wait, I've changed my ways, I understand your problem now, and you know, maybe, just maybe, we might be able to get along and see eye to eye. And so he has no more friends remaining because he played this very aggressively towards the enemy instead of attacking us. Nuru will make it to the crash site next turn, so where we are right now for the overview is that all we really have left to do is get Nuru to that urban shipwreck. We beat Sigrid, and we have defeated Greenfinger, and we destroyed all the crystals, so all those purple arrows of the A crystals are gone. A rank is for 30 turns, S rank is for less than that. I don't think we're going to beat it in 25 turns, but we will do our best. As you can see, we have got close to 2/3 of the map under our control, so it is not out of our grasp, but there's really a lot of other things that are happening here on this map. So a lot of those other things are much easier accomplished if you get Nuru to the crash site early, but I exploited some different tactical advantages, like Sigrid not being able to attack commanders with her groove to make my life a little bit easier. Because again, it's easier to bug test your own campaigns when you don't play it the exact same way every time, and the way that I normally play it when I'm just by myself is finish the map as quickly as possible. That's really what anyone tries to do with these types of games, because that's how you get S rank and 3 stars in the campaign missions. So I'm going to put my guy down here, and probably one of their sharpshooters will hit it, but it's just at this point we've got a lot of units that we need to move each turn, and I'm going to use my mages to heal each other since some of these units have been hit by volcanic ash in previous turns, and they're already kind of squishy, so our goal is just to increase their longevity so I don't have to buy more units, because I'm running out of gold, guys. Just kidding. It's fun to see that frugality never vanishes, even when you have lots and lots of money. I'm like a medieval millionaire, guys. So, next turn, we are looking for ways to construct a money bin to put all of this gold in, nearly 10k. Nuru needs to go to the crash site. One of my own vines that I now control are in the way, so I'm going to get that out of the way. I don't really need to move them, but I do need to get Nuru to this crash site because it introduces a new side quest that we haven't even figured out is available, but that's why it is the thing at the top of the list, is because, hey, it's probably the most important thing you need to do, is claim this module. And we've now figured out the crash site contains a technology assimilator, which basically allows Nuru's army to take technology that's not currently in their arsenal and make it theirs. So she kind of jokes that she can't identify charged ship parts because it's still on fire, and so I try to represent this with these map decorations that are available in the decoration gallery, and basically she's going to assimilate some technology. The only thing that's currently assimilated is fire, which is kind of just a joke because it's all on fire. But she's looking for salvageable module parts, and so it says, hey, bring in the assimilator Zeppelin, and players playing this are like, what on earth is that? And down here we've got a balloon now, and capturing that central barracks over here has also unlocked something else, and now has dropped these 2 drop bridges on this side of the map, which now means the Outlaws are going to be coming at us in full force, and this will also introduce the Outlaws so we can see them, which we can. So it says, better news, the central barracks can also move now, so that's another option also, now that we've completed all of the main objectives, and it has now introduced the new one of saying, hey, eradicate Sigrid's units, because she won't join us, unlike the Outlaws or Greenfinger when we subdue their leaders. We've already subdued Sigrid, and her army did not join us. So now we are introduced to the Outlaws. And we can see volcanic ash falling. I'm just using the snow mechanic here, since it kind of looks like ash when it's white in color or gray. And the ground in the background here for the volcanic wasteland works pretty well for this. We're introduced to Errol and Orla, who cutely note that, hey, you know, the undead, they don't need the food, right? So they're trying to pillage the city as well, which is probably a hint as to why Sigrid was not particularly friendly with us coming in, when she's already dealing with the Outlaws looting and stealing on one side, and then Greenfinger's units being angry that, you know, her city even exists near his forest. And so it's understandable why all of them might have a chip on their shoulder when there's already a failure to produce a lot of food for their massive armies, and the undead, you know, Errol and Orla kind of note, you know, do they even need the food if they're undead? Nuru takes offense to them, you know, calling her a monster, and, you know, this now notes that, you know, hey, they've got a shield, which is pretty cool. And she starts to take offense, and this time Nuru is the one that's kind of mad at them, not maybe being accepting for who she is, and at the same time realize that she can always just beat them into submission, which, you know, kind of works in a game that's got war in the title. So yeah, we are going to play at war with now 2 commanders. We've already seen both of their grooves activated, so it's not a surprise to us at this point, although for some players, this usually I've gotten them revealed as early as turn 8 before, and that is a bit of a surprise if you just kind of complete the objectives in order. Nice, so we are subduing the outlaw leaders. They're over here, we just need to get over there, but we also have this assimilator that was introduced, and what we can do is essentially move it up here, and it said bring it near a hideout so that we can assimilate it. So it looks like the damaged module isn't a total loss, and can it make us a mobile hideout? Tech Ops is like, yeah, actually it turns out it's not just your wagons that can turn into battle barracks, but now you've got this strike zeppelin that's a flying dirigible that basically can turn into a hideout. And it that's a little bit confusing maybe for some players, so I added, at the behest of some folks that play tested this, they said, hey, this is a little bit confusing. Nuru immediately gets sidetracked, like, what alliterative name can I give this? Of course, I'm writing the campaign, so I like things that I feel like I'm writing like Donkey Kong Country levels here, with like titles of levels and words and things that have the same letters in a row. I don't know why I do that. It just rolls off the tongue better. So the Tech Ops gets back on point and is like, maybe we name the prototype after we can make them. So Nuru is like, yep, I like Strike Zeppelin, I'm taking that. So now it introduces us to what the Strike Zeppelin is. And so we now got new mobile technology. Tech Ops breaks it down in this very brief cutscene that says, hey, before you take one out for a spin, and Nuru's like, yeah, whatever, don't tell me more stuff about it, I just want to test it in the battlefield, and saying James Bond never listened to Q before he started testing out gadgets. It's more fun to figure it out while you're fighting a supervillain. So Tech Ops says he'll keep it brief, and the computer basically just says we've recovered an assimilator module, so not all of the balloons have this, just this first time that we're using it. And of course you need to be able to build a unit from that structure in order to relocate that structure, which means the only options we have for something like a hideout to make it a mobile hideout is we've got to build one of the units a hideout can build. Sharpshooters, you know, long-range units, that didn't really make a lot of sense. Thieves, one of 2 only possible units. I did this for balance, mostly because if you can move a balloon into the middle of the city in this map, for example, I tried this, it's loads of fun. If the way that you reposition that unit is not using the thief, it's very easy to basically poop out a bunch of thieves right in the middle of the city, then loot all the structures and drop them off in the hideout right next door, and that was kind of broken, in my opinion. So in this case, you actually recruit a thief, and he kind of runs around a little bit here. And she says, you know, the Strike Zeppelin sounds cooler, can fly and deploy in fields, forests, and mountains, which is different than the War Wagon, which can only stay on roads, fields, and bridges. And Tech Ops kind of points out, just like building a wagon to reposition your battle barracks, you can recruit a thief to lift off your hideouts. And the thief steals the fire and puts it inside the hideout. and then closes the tent flap behind them, and that's kind of my way of attempting to explain away that, hey, your hideout is basically just a tent. You put the fire inside it, and the tent cloth expands into a hot air balloon. You take the fire out of the tent, or mobile, what we call a hovering hideout now, and so that's what our mobile hideout is, since we really needed alliterative names for some reason. So Nuru says, you'll see this in TinyGroove and TinyGroove Tower Defense too. I apologize. So, you love that our mobile bases are also transports you can hitch a ride on, and so this also points out, if players didn't realize, you can definitely place units inside these wagons or balloons, but be sure you unload them at the end of their movement or you'll lose the unit inside. And Nuru points out, very importantly, since she's shown here in the cutscene, that she wouldn't want to be inside one of these transformers or their movies when they unpack, because that would be bad news. And TACOps points out, yeah, if you lose Nuru, you're going to lose the mission, so definitely be careful if you put Nuru in one of these balloons or in one of the wagons when you move them across the map. So I'll demonstrate that here in a second, since I haven't really shown that. And then I break down a table just to show what are the differences between the barracks and the hideout. Our mobile military now has two different types of mobile structures. We introduced a new one here in this second map, and you shouldn't be surprised if we introduce more in the future. As anyone who's played TinyGroove has already seen the battle barges that are boats that move. Of course, boats don't work in maps with lava, because lava replaces the water in the tile set, but there's also the option for towers that are relocatable, which is also included in TinyGroove in Chapter 6. So, the ways that this works is basically now we gotta build a thief anytime we want to relocate our hideout. The cost is 400 gold, because that's how much it costs to build a thief currently. And its movement range is 5 unless there's weather involved. Like the example shown here, it's windy. And also, the only thing it warns you about is, hey, don't park it over lava or the game will definitely crash. I tried this a lot of times in my own lab. So, let's get to it. One final note, this is a campaign side quest, so as a result you're not going to see a bunch of arrows and other things update the heads-up display saying, hey, here's where all the outposts are. The hideouts are still highlighted here because we haven't captured these 3 to get our 3rd wagon, but the ones over here are not highlighted because we already own them, or have at some point owned them if somehow the enemy recaptures them from our purview. Nice, and our Outlaw outpost vanishes, so if we reclaim the others, we just build a thief again to move it somewhere else. So now we've got a next type of unit, and that's kind of fun. And that's kind of the goal with this, is to basically use these triggers in some unconventional ways just to show you what different things you could potentially implement in your own campaigns as we kind of circle back around to the next idea. So we're going to move across the map and grab all of our outposts along the way, or hideouts, excuse me. And now that this bridge is open, we want to park it on the enemy's front doorstep because they're about to charge across the bridge. And let's get a move on. Alright, we have the whole city. Surprisingly, I didn't actually add any sort of dialogue for that. That is a true achievement. Nice job, me. But as you're doing this as well, that kind of would have been fun for some celebratory fanfare, I suppose. Maybe I'll add that in a future update. But we now control the structures in the city, which means it's going to be really hard for the enemy to take these back from us. My goal is to get in the woods and reload, because we know the enemy has sharpshooters in the woods over here. So our other goal is to build us some dogs that can actually see that stuff. Yep, there we go. And then attack them. That's why I didn't build a dog here. Normally you'd want to build something that would block the enemy's view, but something that I've gotten pretty good about, and most players that have played TinyGroove are familiar with the fact that these maps are very tiny, as the name kind of implies. They're usually pretty small. All the maps you'll see for TinyGrooveCS are going to have these types of dimensions because they fit on the screen without moving left and right, and makes it really convenient for time-lapse when you're trying to show what is happening in fast fashion across the course of a This has taken me about an hour to play through, but normally it only takes about 20 minutes if I shut my mouth. So again, out of units here for both of those. I think we're also out of slashers as well. So we're running out of options at this point. So instead, I'm just going to build my wagon and move it over here, because if I want to build spearmen, I want them to be on the enemy's front doorstep. So yeah, we're going to do that. And I can't really put the hurt on the enemy any more than I can at this particular juncture. So I'm going to end my turn. Yep. And the Outlaws have been accruing units for a while right here, so they're going to hurt us for a couple turns, mostly because I didn't mass my army right here on their doorstep, which is usually what I do because I built the campaign, I know it's coming. But my goal is to play this like a regular player would, not necessarily a person that is not omniscient, but at the very least I have some consideration into what is coming because I programmed it. And you're seeing those triggers now, exactly how these things are set up. So I want to move forward and start to take Sigrid's stuff away. I think at this point she has also run out of money. At the beginning we saw harpies, you know, Wolfar knocked one over the river towards us with his groove. So my goal is, since they're getting sniped by these guys across the river, we need to take them out first. And unfortunately this guy can do as much damage as anyone. The goal is to get some units across the river, but I have no mages that are really in range that can put the hurt on them yet, so unfortunately I'm relegated to using my dogs. But now that I can see a little bit better, I know what the enemy's got hidden back here. There's another sharpshooter down here, or back here probably then. I know they've got a few, because we just spawned a few for them, but also they've been building them along the way, and then subsequently losing them because they really don't have a lot of defenses for Sigrid's flying units at the beginning, other than mages they're provided at the map's outset. So I'm going to build a couple pikemen here, drop the stabbers off for the Florin faction, and then park it in the enemy's front doorstep, because that will be fun for them to deal with. Also, don't want to forget that this is over here, and we're going to move our balloon a little bit further up. Yay! So we're going to move this up here and park it next to this outpost. Second hideout is now gone, and it's deployed again. So I'm going to move these guys up here, preemptively knowing I'm going this direction. So I've got some gold still in my coffers, and I'm looking for a mobile bank that I can deposit it in, but unfortunately the WarGroove universe still does not have online banking, so we got to drop off the gold wherever they're open during regular bank hours. And inevitably it will be a holiday by the time that they drop off the gold there, so those regular hours are going to be pretty restricted, because they're going to be celebrating my victory. Let's do this. I could build more units. Hello, cat. And hello, kitty cat. I keep forgetting that I have run out of mages. I so badly want to build them. Yeah, so we can shoot across the creek with these, so I'm going to do that. And make this a reality. The only unit that can hit Wolfar is one that is going to die if he does so. But I don't really want him to advance forward. I mean, I could, because it would make him a little bit more vulnerable. But I'm okay with this right here. Alright. And that gives me enough more, a little more space to recruit one more shooter. That way I can hit them I was reticent to do that because it's about to rain more volcanic ash, and our visibility range and our archers range is about to drop down, so that was kind of why I didn't want to recruit them, but that's okay. They're only going to be able to strike 2 spaces away from them, so they're not going to be as useful as you might think, but this one has dropped themselves within range. So again, there's volcanic ash. Let's also pay attention to where that falls, because that, it's basically a non-event here. So first things first, we're going to move this thing over, because I want to be able to use these in the next map, not just in this one, otherwise I'd be harassing the enemy with my balloon. But if I don't get S rank this time, I'll just be using my balloon to take me straight to wherever I want to go. But right now, I'm just using it to absorb all the hideouts, so it is permanently added to our arsenal. And it's dropped its 10 flaps over there. And so, I don't know why I brought that one up here. At this point, my thieves are basically useless unless they've got gold. I don't even need the gold, so I'm just going to put the thieves on this side of the map so I kind of ignore them at a certain point. And we're getting close to the end, but I still don't want to be stupid with the way I'm using Nuru, so I'm going to move her north towards the enemy's map edge. Alright. Eliminate the enemy there. I can move forward and hit the enemy with Greenfinger. We just don't want to lose him. Although if we do, he's a perishable unit, but if we lose him permanently in the campaign. So we don't want to do that. That's kind of incorporating some elements that the game hasn't explained yet, but mostly because it will become important by the time you get to the third mission, where you're now carrying over commanders. Right now, there's nothing to do with these newly recruited commanders, since this is the last mission. But in the third update, you'll start to notice that losing commanders is bad, because games like Fire Emblem or others, when you lose important units, you don't get them back, which really gives it an additional survival feel again, which is, again, kind of what I've been going for with this campaign. So I'm going to move this one up here, mostly just to take advantage of the critical hits for these spearman units. And also because I wanted to capture that structure. At this point, I'm just going to move my wagon right to the enemy's front doorstep. Nice. And if I do that, I'm going to be surprised, so I can really hit either one of these, but this one is going to be more of a threat to my wagon when I'm about to deploy it down there. I'd love to be able to hit this guy, but I can't actually, because I know that the enemy commander is there. So I'm going to move over here. I would move either of these into position. Any of these will work. Dang it, I hit wait again. I'm still trying to get used to playing this on a PC after logging hundreds of hours on the Switch version, programming these campaigns, and then troubleshooting playing them, and of course playing the great main campaign and Double Trouble campaign. Almost fell into the same error again. It's dumb to put one of these in the front lines, but at this point they're kind of expendable. I don't want to lose them permanently, but if I produce another interesting thing for the enemy to attack, they're probably not going to destroy this guy. And if they do, that will be disappointing. But let's just hope that the enemy doesn't. And finally use our sharpshooter. I would love to hit Wolfar, but can't because, again, not in range. But if I put him down here, I can hit the other enemies' units down here and start to eliminate some of their production structures, which will essentially just render them useless. I'm just going to heal myself, put myself in harm's way, but heal and protect Greenfinger again. One archer remaining now. Yep. is time to make them see the error of their ways. We're going to start with Wolfar. We now got him below the minimum value of the range that Greenfinger can deal damage. And now I'm just going to make it my goal to box the enemy in. Yeah, they're in the forest, so I can't hit them. The only guy I can hit is here. I can move across, but that doesn't really do what I want it to do. I just have so many units. I've been kind of throwing in that direction. Normally this is not a thing you want to do. You want to preserve your unit's life, but for the purposes of this walkthrough, and for the purposes of not having to track quite as many units moving across the map, this should get me close enough that I can drop off my gold from my sneakers that have been making their way across the map, and their fun Florin sneakers. I'm sure they have fun shoes. And now I can use Wolfar to put the hurt on the enemy. I was going to go this direction, but I can't hit them, so I'm just going to move forward and end my turn. Unfortunately, I think I have one more stabber. I'm going to drop it there. Now I got no more spearmen left. No. So this is where, if you started to lose a lot of your units towards the end of the map, you can game Nuru's groove by basically having her attack structures or different things to get her groove to charge a couple more times. And leverage that to use her teleport beam to bring some back into the map. At the end of the map, it counts how many of each unit you have and returns them back to your stock. So presumably, if you haven't lost your spearmen or other units, it will basically count how many you have remaining and say, hey, that's how many I had left after mission 2. And I will show you how that counter works in the next video, mostly because by mission 3, that's becoming very important how many units remain in your stock. But for now, I'm going to show you how it counts and tells you how many units you have remaining, using some counters that essentially keep track of each unit type as they're deployed, employing meta locations as a tracking device. So I'm going to deposit both of the gold bags into my hideout before I lift off. Now notice that it is ignoring these 2 thieves that are there, and instead will only become something when there's a 3rd thief here. It's because it knows that it is a thief that was recruited via meta location from this particular site. So still makes the hideout function as a place where you can deposit gold, and does not break the game mechanic of being able to deposit new gold from other pre-existing thieves into that space, which took a little while to figure out, but for the most part it makes it a little bit more fun when you're considering the fact that you want your hideout to be functional. I mean, the whole point in having it worthwhile to move around the battlefield is that it has some utility, and not being able to deposit gold in it by just any thief that's next to it kind of breaks its functionality. So again, this particular game, a lot of the ash wound up on that side of the field. But the randomizer, you may see the same thing when you play through, or something slightly different. But it has made it pretty easy for me to avoid most of the volcanic ash this time around, because by the late phase of the game, we are already on the other side of the map. And at this point, I'm just going to attack the ranged units and just do a full-fledged push into the middle of this section of the map. And the last little healing field is there. The last couple of times I had played through this map, they instead used the scorching fire. And one time killed themselves, the other time made it impossible for Nuru to escape because I had boxed him in really well, and then there's so much foliage over here that movement speed is vastly diminished and could not escape the fire the second time, and ended up losing because Nuru caught on fire, and that was a bummer. Mostly because I was like 20 turns in and had not saved a checkpoint. Because when you're testing it in the editor without going out to the campaign base screen, you can't set a checkpoint. So I don't really have a reason to move this, or really a reason to move any units. I'm just going to move them out of the range of volcanic ash that is falling, because I care about my army. And if I attack this structure, the map ends, because if you look at our objectives, it's really the only thing left to do is subdue the outlaw leaders and eradicate Felheim's presence, but honestly it really doesn't matter if we defeat the outlaws and have them join us, so we still kind of want to do that first. Our goal is mostly just to eliminate Felheim, since it's kind of our top objective. The one in red is always the most important of the main mission directives. So, I can't use T off on this guy, so Errol and Orla are just going to have to suffer Wolfar instead, and they have now been sufficiently subdued. And now everything, all your base are belong to us. They're mine. The renegade outlaws have now joined us, and the only thing left to do is capture the 3 hideouts, which, surprise, we've just done, but because of the order of my triggers, it's after the capturing order, so you'll now see it says, hey, we captured a hideout, we captured a hideout. In a future update, I should probably reorder that so that I don't have to move another unit, and it drops another base for us to use. If for some reason you didn't already have all of them, you do now. So, and this is where I could stall a couple more turns and bring my tent to the next mission. Normally I can do all this in one playthrough, meaning I could collect all of the outposts or these hideouts with my hovering hideout with the assimilator field. You can see highlighted here, it says anything in range, absorb into it, so that we're collecting the technology. Unfortunately, I also know the S rank is 25 turns, and we're turn 24 right now, and you guys already kind of get the idea of how this mission works. There's loads of stuff packed into it, which really just shows the versatility of the combinations of triggers and things that you can implement in your own campaign. So I'm just going to end the map by destroying this structure. Yay, everything is green. All of our directives, both primary and secondary directives, are attended to. The only one is the campaign directive that doesn't appear on this list, because it really has no bearing as to whether or not we complete this side mission here for this particular map. But yay, now we've got Wolfar and the Wagons, and we've got Greenfinger and Nuru. Greenfinger stamps out the fire. For some reason I really liked playing with that animation this time around. But little did she know, dun dun dun, that Sigrid from this map and Ragna from map 1, they didn't take their beating with stride, and now we see Felheim has come back. And now we're introduced to Volder in this campaign. It says, Ragna says this isn't over, and they say some menacing remarks. You're also introduced to Dr. Bones, who is the primary protagonist in Dr. Bones' Holiday Harvest, or what's more commonly known as his TinyGroove Tower Defense, and he functions as a 4th commander. And the next map is going to basically function as a 4-on-4 MOBA style map featuring these guys who will make us pay, in air quotes. And so if you've got any ideas of what you think you'd like to see maybe coded into the next map, or have any preferences specifically related to ideas you'd like to see incorporated either into the campaign at large, or just some fun campaign mechanics that you'd like to see used, comment on the video, or hit us up on Reddit where I post this, and you should be able to see some of those fun things implemented in the next mission, since a lot of the things that are in this mission are things that were recommended by folks using those venues. Thanks for watching.